Former big league pitcher, currently the pitching coach and sometimes backup skipper when they need it of the Lake Country Dockhounds. He is Paul Wagner. Wags, on the road, on the phone, but you're back on the show with us. Did you put down a hard and fast rule for the boys over 4th of July weekend? No fireworks, fellas. No fireworks.
I said, be careful. You lose appendages. You hear about it every year, and I just don't want to read about it being a dockhound losing an appendage.
Oh, all right, man. So now my brain spins into, okay, this is story time with Wags. Back in the day when you were young and you felt like you were bulletproof, there had to be something involving somebody you knew in the league with fireworks that went horribly wrong, right?
No, that's a good lead-in, but no,
oh,
nothing.
Wow.
No, nothing. Because I think just because after games and stuff, regardless of what level you're playing at, they have quote unquote professionals taking care of everything. So no backfires. Not even in my high school and college life did anything go awry. Maybe a couple, I tried to hold a bottle rocket in my hand and I got singed when it took off, but no, nothing bad. No loss of eyes or members.
What we used to do in high school, and it's ironic because today it's my 40th class reunion.
Ooh.
Yes. All 26 of us are going to get together later today.
But to have everybody still there.
Yeah.
I mean,
we graduated with 34. We've lost some along the way.
Lost some. Okay, I was going to say that.
But back in the day, we had, in high school we played with aluminum baseball bats, right? And in the end of there was always a little pinhole, Wags. I don't know why it was there, but it was. But that pinhole was the perfect slot size for a bottle rocket. And you would slide that little thing in the hole, then a buddy would light it, and with a baseball bat to your shoulder, you'd point it in the direction, and whoosh, it was go
Wow.
off. And that's usually when the story goes, and then something went horribly wrong. But we survived, Eric. We survived.
I don't have any stories of me personally having any issues. I mean, we did a lot of the smoke bombs and mailboxes and, devious things. But
shocking.
Our neighbors, so when I grew up in Milwaukee, and we had two guys that were renters across the street from us. And they were kind of, I would say they were probably 30s, mid-30s. And one 4th of July, all of a sudden start hearing all these fireworks going off and big fireworks going off. And all of a sudden we look out the front window and these guys are shooting bottle rockets at one another and throwing M80s at one another.
Okay.
And all of a sudden it looked like they had pulled a tree stump out of the ground in their front yard because they had all of these holes from M80s that they were throwing at each other's feet. I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah, but remember these were
fortunately nobody got hurt.
But remember these were renters.
Correct. Yeah, and they probably had a BAC level that was high.
Yes.
And they got into a dispute about who knows what, and yeah, that's the only time that I've ever been exposed to anybody having any issues.
Hey, Wags, let's shift back to the week with the team real quick. I know you guys have been on the road. You've dodged some rain, but you guys are still on the top of the heap. And the guys are playing well, aren't they?
Yeah, as we kind of talked prior to getting on the air here, you know what, we've been struggling a little bit. We're trying to find ourselves again, both pitching and offense. But, it's crazy when things don't seem to be going the way you want them to go or the way you think they should go. And then you look in the standings and you're still a game and a half in first place. You got to kind of be thankful for where you're at because we definitely can get better. We definitely can do things. But, as you get into 50 games, regardless of, again, like I say this, regardless of what level you play at, time is hard. And once you get in halfway into the season and you got 50 games on the road and at home, these guys are getting tired. So there are lulls, and you expect everybody to play at that high level for the 100-game schedule, or in the big leagues, the 162 games that you watch. It just can't happen. Humans are humans, and as a coach now, not as a player, I look at them like, what the hell's going on? Why can't you do this? You've done it for 50 games. Let's do it for 52, 53. But again, the human body needs a break, and it can't continue at that pace, because obviously if it did and they were that successful correctly all the time, they wouldn't be in this league.
Now, Eric, we didn't plan this, but Wags just teed up the perfect segue here. It's about Mizorowski with the Brewers. Yeah. And there is a lot of speculation, Wags, like the Nationals did back in the day with Strasburg, that they could shut him down sometime this season. I mean, you've lived the life. You've stood on the hill. Where do you stand on this phenom right now with the Milwaukee Brewers?
I look back at that scenario you presented. Rizzo, the GM for Washington Nationals, yes, he did win a World Series after that, but he did take a lot of heat for doing that. You have an opportunity to win. This is the big leagues. I mean, this is the big leagues, and this is a phenom that the Milwaukee Brewers can put out there, and he can win you game one of any series. I don't care if it's a divisional series or a World Series game. He's got the stuff to dominate and win. You've got to be very careful. So we've talked on the other shows with the guys, and I actually told Drew, I said, my theory would be for him, yes, you want to monitor him. You want him to stay healthy. He's a young 23-year-old, but you also have an opportunity to win. And the Milwaukee Brewers have seen windows close on them. So let's watch him. And my theory or my thought process would be, let's limit his pitches. Let's watch what he does. But let's move this Brewer rotation into a 6-man rotation. He gets the extra day off. Maybe you can lengthen it out into September, August, September, and even into October. That's what the Milwaukee Brewers do, because you're like, this guy you have to. This is not a person that, we'll wait till next year, because you never know.
Yeah.
Or Wags, let's say mid-August, suddenly has a groin strain that puts him on the 15-day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those things never happen, right? Never happen.
Never
Rick
happens.
Wicks.
Hey,
and no, but I see that's what we were talking about with Drew, and I know we just listened about the Brewers, but it's you see a guy who misses a start, or he misses 2 starts, or he goes on 15-day DIL, and then you send him to Nashville for a rehab. I don't want him to restart, and you don't want that body. His body is hot. It's ready for the season. You shut him down for 2 weeks or 14 days, or miss 2 or 3 starts, and then try to crank him back up. Very susceptible to injury. That's why I kind of go with the 6-man rotation. Let's just spread out his starts, but don't shut him down completely.
So, Wags, you kind of, not to segue out of our baseball talk, but you kind of teed it up, and here we sit. We're 9 weeks from the Bow opener in the state of Wisconsin, and you said, as we're looking forward to August, September, October, and just some of those things and all the things that we're doing to, like, you're probably not, but a lot of outdoorsmen and women in the area, Milwaukee and Madison, across the state, are starting to think about the bow season. Is there anything that you're feeling like, I'm really itching to get a couple days at home because there's A, B, or C that I need to do at the Wagner Ranch that I feel like I need to get done? Is there anything that you're kind of starting to think about? I know we had went back and forth and talked about, okay, first, second week of August, that's when we're going to think about planting, and, I'd be happy to come help you with that. But is there anything that you're really thinking about as we're starting to kind of really launch full speed into the fall prep?
Yes, I have one more as soon as we get home. Before the All-Star break, mid-July, July 20th to 21, 22, that Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, I definitely have to finish. There's one portion of that north side I want to cut. So I want to finish all my cutting. I want to get it done, and then I'm going to spray immediately.
Yeah.
And that should be my final step until everything dies in a couple weeks. And then I'm having him come in. We're going to turn dirt. And again, like we've talked, we're going to have the guys on from the Merton feed mill maybe in a couple weeks. And he's going to talk about the seed and stuff that I'm going to implement this year, and the route I'm going to go, and what products I want to use. But I'm going to do a hand seed again. But yeah, it's getting close. I got one more cutting to do. I want to finish one more cutting, and then I want to spray and kill it, let it sit for a couple weeks, and then turn it over. And like you said, we're getting right into it. That first week in August, I want to get it in the ground. I want to get it in the ground I'll be ready.
So I've done my fair share of driving around and just kind of looking for deer and seeing kind of what we've got going on. And I'm fortunate. I'm surrounded by a ton of public land by me, but I'm also surrounded by a ton of ag land. And for a while there, it was like kind of early June, and I started thinking, I can tell which fields are going to just explode. And it was interesting to kind of see that unfold over the course of the last couple of weeks. We always live or die, it seems, by that knee high by the 4th of July rule for corn. And boy, I was going to walk out into one of those cornfields, set up my camera, and take a picture, because I bet a lot of this corn is like shoulder high already. And it seems like we've had kind of an interesting stretch of a lot of heat, then a lot of rain, then a lot of heat again, and now here we are, we're in this period of rain, and it just seems to really, really be thriving with the crops around us. I don't know if you're seeing that same kind of thing with some of your neighbors, and I don't know if it's a bean year or a corn year out by you, but boy, I tell you, I've seen some crops that look incredible for this time of the year.
No, absolutely. And I think all of those factors included are making it happen this way. And yes, this year is actually a corn year. The 43 acres to the south of me that was purchased, there was some speculation that it might be, I don't know, bookmarked for maybe residential or something. Mm-hmm. But no, one of the local farmers adjacent, he purchased the property, cleaned out some of the tree lines, and he did tell me he's going corn. And when we have corn around me, usually it's usually a good year. Again, it's a good year because I get them on camera at 2 a.m. I don't get them on camera. I don't get them on camera when they're laying below me and getting ready to, to be put on my wall and eat. But again, usually that is good. And then there's another thing that's surfacing, not to go too far away from our season. Right down by me, about 270 acres was just purchased for the Gulf community. It's called Kettle Forge, I believe. Kettle Forge is coming. I'm sure Garbedian and all those guys will be talking about it, but that's right there away. So that's 270 acres that are very close to me that will be taken over by a golf course. So again, deer population will have to move around. So again, another positive possibility for us over at the, as you call it, the Wagner Ranch. But no, it's good. Corn and bean, everything going up, and hopefully it stays, a little bit moist and a little bit wet where they don't have to remove crop too early, and it can sit closer to, that, I like that, close to that mid-early, keep the corn up as long as they can.
Yeah, and give me a heads up when you're going to cut it, please.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Paul Wagner, Eric Tasker, me, Tim Scott, and you. Glad to have you with us on this Saturday morning. It is Tailgate Talk. If you missed this episode, if you're joining us midway, you can download on our podcast page on this station's website. I think it's really interesting because we've had Wags on the last 4 weeks. It's been so dry. It's been so hot. And now in the last 24, 48, 72 hours, we've had a lot of rain. That is growing up on a farm, that is the perfect formula for corn. It literally explodes when you have the heat, the humidity, and then you mix in some rain. It's like putting gas on a fire, isn't it?
That's what it seems like. It's like, this is nice. And if this is, I've never been a farmer. I've always watched farmers bust their butts, taking care of everything and crops and obviously providing food for us. But it's a job that I never wanted. I never wanted sleepless nights hoping for rain.
I didn't either. That's why I got into radio. I just want you to know that, okay?
I don't.
See you, Dad. I'm out of here.
Good move.
Wags is like, I'm just trying to figure out how to get these couple acres that I got for food plots to grow. I'm not worried about 100 acres or 200 acres. I'm just trying to get these couple acres to grow and pop nice and green.
I think it's interesting, though, Wags, when you talk about your food plots. And again, maybe I am naive to the process of this, and educate me a little bit. It seems like, if I'm reading you right, you plant later. Is that correct? Why? And if that is the case, why do you do that?
So there's clover and there's some greens that are on there right now. So they'll come through there. The turkeys used it, the deer, a lot of fawns. I have a lot of fawns, Tasker. I have two does. I have two sets of twins running around. So then what I do is I let that clover go, and then I cut it. The reason why I do mine a little bit later, and someone's probably, oh, that's too late, or this is that, too late for turnips or radishes or something like that. I do it because there's so many animals. There's so many animals. If I plant that any earlier, by the time gun season comes, or even late bow some years, it's gone. The food is gone, and they've moved on to another place. And I can't have that because I got to time my food plots out to where the farmers around me harvest their crop, and then I have the only quote unquote food source with water, so that these animals come to me. And that's kind of the game I try to play. But again, you can see my wall when you walk in. There's only a couple, 3-4 deer on it, so obviously my ways aren't the wisest.
Well, the thing is, though, Wags, I mean, we saw it firsthand during turkey season. Boy, are they out there, and they are just pounding those fields. I mean, it was down to dirt for the most part because they had eaten that and picked that so clean. So they've formed a habit of coming to you. They've formed a habit coming to your place and to your spots there, and they feel really comfortable, obviously. I mean, I don't know. I had a couple hours at a time where there were deer out there that they just felt comfortable, and they knew that there was a food source there, and they could munch around for a while, and then a turkey shows up, and the does get upset, and they stomp, and they hiss, and they run out of there. So it seems to be working. I mean, obviously there's a lot of deer there, so let's just hope that now, for your sake, there's something with horns that will walk out there and be the next Thanksgiving dinner.
And I knock on wood right now because we've had the rain, like you said, Tim. We've had the rain and we've had the sun, but we haven't had one of those, like one of those summer wind, like really heavy winds where all my apple tree blossoms have. So as I'm cutting, I go into the orchard and I'm cutting around. I have an apple. There may be a good apple production this year, I'm hoping. I don't know. It always switches, but when I have good apples, corn, and stuff like that, there are animals. Again, do they come at the right times for me? Sometimes no, because usually I'll have that, but then I'll have a bean. And if I have beans around me, like we've talked about before, the beans obviously don't grow as high as your corn, so these animals are coming later in the evening and missing hunting time because they can't go hide in a cornfield. If they stand out in a bean field, they're going to stick out like a sore thumb. So I need corn, and I need all these factors to go together, so maybe we can shoot a deer.
So I don't know if you guys remember hearing about this kind of rumbling of potentially a state record deer that was turned in for measuring at the Outdoors Expo in the Dells.
Oh, yeah. That used to be, I think, Wags, wasn't that in Madison? And then they moved it to, is it Chula?
Yeah,
where they do it at the Chula
Kalahari.
Dome or Kalahari?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I knew it was somewhere
so
in the
the
Dells,
open season Deer and Turkey Expo in the Dells.
Yeah, it used to be in Madison years ago. But
yeah,
they moved it. Yep.
And so so they do this thing where you can bring in, you can get your deer scored. They have
I know. I used to do radio shows there.
All of that.
Yeah.
Well, a guy brings in.
Muy Grande?
A Muy Grande, yes. Initially making waves in the hunting world in March of 2025. Shot the deer in fall 2024. He displayed a 49-point rack at the expo.
49-point rack.
Yeah. Waters claimed that he killed the buck during muzzleloader season in Marquette County. The non-typical was scored by the Wisconsin Buck and Bear Club and netted over 306 inches. Which would have put him well ahead of the standing record, 253 inches. So we're not just talking about
wait a minute.
Small increase.
So the record was 253?
Correct.
And he checks in at 306?
Correct.
Okay.
So
what was in that food plot, Paul
Wagner?
Yeah,
we weren't just like 5 inches bigger. We were 55 inches bigger.
Okay.
So we have this story that just immediately was on everybody's radar. Where it's like, there's just no way. I mean, this deer doesn't look normal. That's not a typical deer. I understand it's being scored non-typical. The DNR got a hold of this story almost immediately, and they started poking their nose around. Well, it turns out this guy ends up confessing after after pressure kept mounting on him to come forward and be truthful, he did not shoot at free range. It was a game farm deer, and it was not anything close to what he was expecting it to be or projecting it to be.
Right.
So he was saying all of these things. Yeah, free and fair chase. It was not a pen deer. And all of a sudden, he starts getting all this heat, and he finally comes forward and he says, "You're right. I'm stupid."
So real quick. So it legitimately, even though it was grown, it spent its life on a deer farm, deer park, whatever it was.
Correct.
It still was that big.
It was still 306 inches. Yes.
Okay, so open the gate and let it run.
Yeah. So
You know what I'm saying, Wags?
yeah. So this guy. Yeah. So what did he? I just don't understand how people think that they can get away with this. Obviously, it's not even close. I mean, it's just.
You just showed me a picture. Wags, have you seen the picture of this?
No.
Okay. I thought you were going to tell me that this guy like glued other horn sets together to make one.
No.
This thing looks like
It's
one
just
of
a
those,
freak.
the Bloody Marys you get at Sobelman's, where they have like hamburgers and hot dogs and beef sticks and all this stuff coming out of the top of it.
Yes.
That's what it reminds me of.
Right. So,
That's what it looks like.
So the story gets really weird because the
Okay.
DNR wardens, as they're investigating, they're talking to all the landowner neighbors.
Right.
So they're,
And nobody's seen this deer.
and nobody has any record of this deer.
No deer cam footage, nothing.
So what ends up happening is nobody could provide any photos of the buck before it was mounted. So it was already shoulder mounted when he brought it in,
Right.
claiming he didn't take his phone into the field with him. Okay? So soon the DNR wardens discovered that the rack belonged to a buck from Yoder Whitetails Farm. Yoder Whitetails Deer Farm. Oh, that's hard to say.
Okay.
The farm sold the rack to an acquaintance of Waters, the guy that finally confessed, who then turned around and sold it to this guy for $600. So he didn't even shoot the deer. He got it from the game farm, from a friend,
From a guy.
of somebody that is friends of the game farm.
Wags, this would be like going into a garage sale and seeing a couple of mounts there and having one that's huge. And then you go, you know what? I wonder if I enter this into a competition, I could win something. You know?
He also it just gets weirder and weirder the more I read about this. He also reportedly
But wait,
then,
there's more.
so he had the buck mounted using a cape from a different deer because obviously he just had the rack.
So this is not even the original deer head that's on it.
Correct. It's just the rack.
All he had was the horns.
All he had was the rack. He hired a photographer to take the photos of him with the rack.
Of course he did.
He also reportedly asked the photographer to Photoshop the rack onto another deer's body, and she declined. Okay, so he wanted to have he really was going in on this.
This is like somebody on Dateline trying to end their marriage by trying to find a hitman.
Right.
And the hitman turns out to be
Right.
an undercover police officer or something like that.
With this information in hand, the DNR wardens got Waters to admit that he didn't, in fact, kill the buck. His wife says to him, "God, I thought you were smarter than this." Which he responded, "I'm stupid." Yes. Rack was confiscated. He pleaded no contest, fined $544.50, and had his hunting and fishing license privileges revoked for 1 year.
So he was out $1,100 if you factor in the cost
Correct.
of
Yes.
mount. Plus the
Yeah.
fine, plus he's out of deer hunting and fishing for a year. Yeah, you
Yeah.
are stupid, dude.
Yeah, so
You are stupid.
I'm okay with that fine. We always talk about, is it harsh enough? Is it not harsh enough? It's a very different story than what we've heard time and time again of the poacher, where he was just trying to pull one over on people, which is also not okay. But he didn't go out and illegally harvest something. I mean, he didn't even harvest the deer, period. And there's a chain of custody there. He didn't do anything illegal except for claim that he actually harvested the deer. So I don't see that being a terrible penalty for that. Whereas sometimes, we hear about 5-year ban or a 10-year ban for some of these guys who are out and, are like the group that was running around up by Allenton that, they got maybe a lighter penalty than what a lot of people had wanted. I think that's fair. I don't know. I mean, what else do you want? It's like I said, it'd be different if he went out and he poached it. I don't know, 1 year hunting and fishing privileges revoked and a $600 fine. I think that's probably fair.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you. I'm on the same lines as you. You didn't go out there and poach it at 1 a.m. with a spotlight or anything like that. It was a stupid act. Obviously, he admitted it. His wife told him he was stupid, but he didn't really. He just tried to pull one over. He tried to pull a scam. He didn't poach. He didn't kill. He didn't. I think it's a fair and just punishment.
So now my question to both of you guys is that someone reads the story, and I'll just maybe I'm generalizing here, but they're not of the right mind, okay?
Right.
And they're like, well, yeah, this guy is stupid. Okay, so work with a deer farm, or maybe you run a deer farm,
right?
And you know what? Open the gate, let him run out.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you do it in November,
right?
When the season is in full swing, and you shoot the deer, or you could be. I mean, if your mindset is that I'm so shallow that I've got to be the king of the hill and I've got to be the man, as far-fetched as this seems, and maybe I've watched too many episodes of Dateline, and and I'm stupid or whatever those shows are called. Throw the deer in a trailer.
Right.
Go out, find some land, and release the deer, plug it, and boom, and then you can go, look at this. Look what I shot right here.
Look at
and
this
now
thing.
And now you have make sure
Never seen it before.
Make sure the truck and trailer are out of the photo. And you know what's going to happen, right? In about maybe within, I don't know what the time frame would be. We'll be doing this show, and then you'll walk in with a story, and you'll go, remember when Red Hot said about whatever? You're not going to believe what I picked up from St. Charles, Minnesota, or someplace like that.
Man. Wow. Yeah, it's a weird time. I will say that much. So
it is strange.
All right, so we got a couple more minutes before Wags has got to run. So
Yep.
I've got another story here. Also, kind of, I guess, similar in terms of a hunting ban that takes place. So a lifetime hunting ban for an Idaho man accused of selling big game tags. So this guy,
like Mike Tyson selling Super Bowl tickets.
Yeah, he was allegedly at the center of a black market scheme to buy and sell big game tags. He was sentenced this week, but some Idaho Gem State hunters are skeptical that the punishment fits the crime. So here's a perfect segue from the last story of, is it enough? So this man was buying and selling these tags on the, under the table, had been charged with 7 felonies and over a dozen misdemeanors for harassing wildlife with a helicopter, poaching trophy class bull elk, unlawfully possessing a trophy class antelope, and buying and selling big game tags, among other violations. In a plea agreement struck with the Twin Falls County Attorney's Office, he pleaded guilty to a single felony count of illegally taking a bull moose. Court documents indicate that he killed the bull moose with the help of an unlicensed guide and or use of an aircraft to locate the moose. So not only did this guy get charged with 7 felonies and multiple misdemeanors, all related to this kind of illegal activity in the hunting and fishing industry, he was able to get a plea deal for one single felony count of illegally taking a bull moose. Now, if you think about the grander implications of that, this guy pleaded guilty to a felony, so he can no longer hunt with a firearm. So he can use a bow, but he will no longer be able to even be in possession of a firearm. So that, I think, has like further implications of just what the actual fine is. Then he has to pay $180,000 in fines and court fees serve 5 years of probation and 50 hours of community service, 25 of which must be dedicated to wildlife preservation and or conservation. Kind of ironic that he has to do that. I don't know that I trust this guy actually going out and doing good for wildlife and conservation after all of those things that he was charged with. But a good way to force him to be back surrounded by something that he's really kind of removed from now.
You know, Wags, I know you have hunted in a lot of different places. And I bring this up, and when you mentioned this story, Eric, I started thinking about a conversation I had with my brother-in-law last Saturday, as a matter of fact. He and his family, his uncle lives in Wyoming, and his dad was a former landowner in Wyoming. And so they've hunted Wyoming in the high country for years. And he talked about how they have had some issues where some disease or something went through the deer herds out there.
Sure.
And so they've always, out-of-state residents, they've always had to apply for points and things out there to be able to hunt. And he said for the last 3 years, they've not been able to get tags because there's so few spots to hunt now because they're trying to grow the herds again. And he's been frustrated because his uncle's place is one of the areas that was not affected by the loss. And which begs the question, Wags, is that this black market stuff, if you won't see more of that, because I'm not naive enough, nor I think are you, to think that this stuff doesn't exist, because when there's a small supply and the demand is high and people are willing to pay a premium price for it, I'm sure this is just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to this stuff.
Oh, and it could go even further than that. So then you look at it, where are the bad moves? Where is the bad apples going to take place? You know, then all of a sudden you're going to have the ones that are licensed, the outfitters that are licensed, instead of bringing in 5 hunters, because depending on their tag limits per how many acres of ranch they have, and they try to make it nice for the hunt. Now they bring in 15 hunters. Now all of a sudden you decimate. Like, there's a lot of the spider web, the entanglement of what can happen as far as out west, big game, how to manipulate systems, because the almighty dollar is the driving force of every outfitter, every person. You can tell me I love the land and I love nature and I love that, but you know what? Loving nature and preserving the land doesn't pay the bills out there. So it's kind of scary. You're right. Through loss and devastation and sickness and how are they going to recoup it? They're going to find a way. And unfortunately, those evil people or the bad people, they find a way to make money, and they'll circumvent the system any way they can.
Yeah, it's I don't know. I don't know how I don't know how they get to some of these, you know, like plea deals and things like that, because no matter what the sentence is or no matter what the fine is, I mean, this is pretty significant. We're talking almost $200,000. He loses his license. He's got, you know, probation, a lot of those different things. No matter what, I think some people just are always of the mindset that it's never enough. And sometimes, you know, maybe like, I think that story about the Wisconsin
do you want him banned?
guy. Well, no, I just think that.
Because Wag, something that you can relate to, it's like baseball, okay?
Right.
I mean, I think back to the mid-'80s, early 90s, when guys were, baseball had a problem with cocaine, and players were suspended. But yet, if you gambled on the game, you're banned for life.
Right.
It seemed like there was a real hypocrisy there, right, with this? And so the thing is, to your point, Eric, what is justifiable,
right,
as far as punishment is concerned? You know?
I actually think that it's a fair punishment for both of these. I don't necessarily agree with him having to do the community service, half of which being involved with wildlife and conservation, because, like I said, I don't know that this guy has good intentions, and he's proved that, be like devious to an extent of, doing these things and kind of doing whatever it takes. How do we know that this guy doesn't just not have a hunting license and he tries to shoot another animal?
What does the T-shirt say? Blank them all and let God sort it out.
Yeah. Yeah. But he can't even. This guy can't even accompany anybody that is going on a hunt. He's not allowed to be a part of it unless this guy has 100 acres. He can be a part of it if they're hunting on his property. He still cannot hunt though. So it's like, okay, I don't know. I mean, I think that it's probably enough because it's a substantial financial penalty, but also the loss of that and confessing to a felony.
All right, we're up against time here for us and for our time with Paul Wagner. Well, it's always sad when Wags has to run. Let's talk about what's going on with the dock hounds. I mean, we're in July now, August. It used to be months. Now it's weeks of the season. Here comes the pennant chase down the stretch, right?
Yeah, we're rolling into it, and we got all Eastern Division, all of our divisional foes. So it's going to come down to how we finish out the year. And like I said, we're in that little bit of a rut period, but we're going to get back on our feet and take care of it, and hopefully get into playoffs. Unfortunately, last year we bowed out quickly. This year we're going to take it a little bit further and hopefully win it all. But yeah, I mean, it's been great. We have so many great activities going on at the Dock Hound Stadium. And as you're coming down from Madison into Milwaukee, or from Milwaukee going west to Madison, you'll see our ballpark. We're right on Highway 67, right at the Paps Farms intersection. Stop on in. There's so many things going. We've got drink deals. We've got food deals. We've got entertainment. We've got former Milwaukee Brewers coming in. We've had Jimmy Gantner there. We've had Raleigh Fingers. Now we have Robin Yount coming in this week. Then we have Ted Simmons coming. We have so many things going on. So you get a chance to stop by the stadium. You see it. It's a cheap, affordable entertainment place. And even if you're on your way back and forth from those two cities, stop in for a few innings. It isn't going to break the bank. Enjoy a little bit of entertainment. Watch these kids, bust their tails to try to get back into baseball, and enjoy yourself.
Every once in a while, it's nice to have variety. Mm-hmm. So I went in there with an open mind. And
variety is the spice of life.
I know.
Yeah, you've heard that before, right?
And I walked in there and I thought, I'm just going to grab a couple brats. And then all of a sudden I'm like, oh my God, they got ribeyes on sale.
Ooh,
so I'm like, well, I'm going to grab a couple ribeyes, maybe stock up a little bit.
Right.
And there I walked out with a handful of ribeyes, a big package, packaged up for me.
Sweet.
But
did they put is it the white paper? They put the string on it?
Yeah.
There's string on it?
No string on it, but.
So, true story. My grandfather, in his small rural country store, had a meat counter in there.
The butcher twine.
And he put in my house, I have the spool of butcher twine, yes.
You haven't used it all yet.
No, I have not. I don't think if you probably tie something up with it now, it might turn to dust. But you know what? It looks great on the shelf.
It becomes part of the meat.
Yes, it looks great on the shelf.
Oh, that's good. But, I say that just to say they've always got stuff going on there. I mean, they've got their July meat deal, which is a couple butter garlic chicken breasts, a whole chicken, a pound of ground chuck. Our favorite, 2 honey mustard cheddar brats, 2 chicken patties, all for the.
If I had a bell in here, I'd ring it. Ding, ding.
All for the excellent price of $20.25. And
that's crazy. I mean, that's crazy when you think about
inflation.
All of you get, for example, like my wife and I, and Dawn and I are empty nesters.
Yeah.
That would last us a week.
Yeah.
Or 2 weeks, maybe. Throw some stuff in the freezer, and away you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You cut up the chicken. You can get the chicken cut up, use it for like salads or whatever. Chicken salad sandwiches or.
How do you get a hold of Bunzels?
You can just go right to their website, bunzels.com, bunzels.com, and then, they're right on like 91st in Burleigh, so they're super easy on off the freeway to get to. Jump in there before you go to a Brewers game.